What's the worst case of rich kid syndrome you've seen? Part 2. My fiance's cousin. He managed to crash 4 cars while still in high school because his father would replace them. When he moved on to college, he got kicked out of several apartments for owning a dog when they weren't permitted. He told me he didn't care though, since his father also funded his continuous stream of new housing. From what I last heard, his father is now paying for his long-standing cocaine habit. Do these parents actually care about their kids? I don't understand how out of touch as a parent you have to be to keep buying your child brand new vehicles every time they crash one due to him or her being reckless. How do you not know how to punish them, or make them work until they pay it off or something? I just do not get how you cannot understand this. Someone's sister got $600 shoes, so the parents got the other kid's shoes of the same price to stop their complaining. Holy somehow this is the one that got me. I mean, this is a common problem for any family. One kid gets one thing and the other sibling throws a tantrum because they also want that thing. The only difference being that it's usually cheap things instead of $600 shoes. I wouldn't say rich kid, but definitely spoiled brat who thought he was rich. Befriended him in 5th grade over our interest in the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. First time I hung out at his place, I noticed just how littered with stuff his room was, some even unopened. I showed him some rare cards that I had recently pulled from a pack. He got super jealous and angry that I wouldn't trade or sell it to him. He immediately got up and walked over to the family computer and booted up a site where you could buy cards and various other toys and such. Completely ignoring having me over, he's now on an online shopping spree adding stuff to the cart. After adding a few things, he yells, "Where is the credit card?" And immediately his older sister comes running up the stairs to yell, "Kyle, Mom said no more buying stuff online," and closes the website and shuts off the computer. Kyle then proceeds to have a crying tantrum on the floor, and I'm just standing there over him in shock at what's happening and how he's acting. I slowly stopped hanging out with him until completely avoiding him as his temperament got worse. The kid wasn't even rich either, if I remember correctly. Both of his parents were cops. Babysat some rich kids. A couple of gems were when we were watching a movie and she said someone was ugly because they were poor. Another was that they left their stove at the side of the road for hobos. The kid was about 11. I nanny rich kids and I know exactly what attitude you mean. Mine thinks that anyone who catches the bus is dangerous and poor and will kidnap them. They mocked a girl who got a scholarship to their expensive school so much that she transferred back to a public school. The mother has me sit in the house doing nothing for up to 8 hours when they have tradespeople in because she's convinced they will steal. The mother also declutters their old crap by dumping it on their cleaning lady because she knows all the refugees in X city, and there are people who will really enjoy this stuff. It's a nice idea, but we're talking about old underwear with no elastic, soft toys with giant stains and missing limbs, school bags that are so old the plastic material is hardened and cracked off, and felt pens with no lids that dried out years ago. She just has no concept of what real people's lives are actually like to think that they might want this garbage. Went to school with a crazy rich kid. His parents got divorced and each decided to buy his love. Mommy owned a real estate agency, so she got him a license and spoon-fed him enough sales for a 6-figure income. The dad then bought him a magazine. Yes, the dad bought a magazine for his 24-year-old cokehead son to run. Worked about as well as you'd imagine. I have a cousin like that. Her parents have always just bought whatever job she's kind of interested in. In high school, they opened a Dairy Queen so she would have a place for her first job. They bought her a clothing store and an interior design business / home decor store. And now that she's got kids and less time to work, they bought like 4 condos for her to use as Airbnb properties. The only good thing is when she gets bored, her stepbrother takes over and finds qualified people to run the businesses, so other people are ending up with nice jobs. So, my best friend's wife teaches at a ritzy $40K per year private school. As in $40,000 a year for elementary and middle school. I think the high school is like $50K plus. Well, she teaches 7th or 8th grade, I can't remember, and she said she always goes around the class after the summer break and asks them what they did over the summer. And she particularly remembers one kid complaining about how much his summer sucked because he was stuck on his parents' yacht all summer and they didn't even take it anywhere cool. Just Italy. Young celebrity posts a pic of a house they just bought. That house isn't that nice. My cousin's house is way nicer. My cousins live in a mansion in Tampa, Florida. It always rocks their world when they visit me in my studio apartment in a Miami ghetto and use my 3 megabyte per second internet. Rich relatives don't mean you're rich too. This girl would always brag about how she'd been to every continent except Antarctica, and that she's visited so many countries. Then she wondered why people called her the rich kid and insisted she wasn't rich. To be fair, I am in no way rich, yet have been to every continent except Antarctica and dozens of countries. You just need to get a job on a cruise ship. Low pay, long, stressful hours, but perks like that. Guy buys $500 headphones from a vending machine because he lost his old pair. Like, who buys from a tech vending machine impulsively? It was on a university campus, not airport, and the dude bought Beats, so not an audiophile or noise cancelling. I was tossing the football in my friend's place, and we almost hit his expensive TV. His response was, "Don't worry, my dad will just buy me another one." Was it a flat screen or a CRT? Because I have never been able to break a CRT, even with a bunch of pinball balls I found. It was a mini screen in his bedroom. Luckily, the only rich kids I knew were the most outstandingly well-behaved boys I've ever met. I was a youth leader in a ministry for middle schoolers, and I think the worst it ever got was them being mildly disruptive at times. But these kids had a literal half-sized basketball court in their basement, along with a basement the size of a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment, an arcade, a fully stocked second fridge. Don't even get me started on the house itself and the yard. This place easily would list as at least $1 million home, but they would share with all the kids in the group and never ever look down on anyone for not having money like them. These boys even helped me change a flat tire on my car because they felt it was useful to know how. They literally could probably afford a tow truck and a tire repair all in the same day if it ever happened to them. They were so well grounded that it made me feel like I was the spoiled brat at times. I looked up this estimate of the house. It was between 1.4 to 1.9 million, but the next most expensive house I found in the area was listed for 1.4. The average home in this particular town costs between 400 to 500K, so it's still pretty lavish compared to what everyone else around them has. I've seen this Aussie guy in a Thai pub in Koh Samui. He wanted to show bar girls that he's rich and lit up his cigarette using a burning 1,000 baht bill. He probably did not know how Thais love their king, and that the king just recently died, and his face is on the bill. The rich kid got him but kicked so hard. Sorry for my English, but hopefully you can understand what I mean. One of my friend's friends ended up paying for a night out of food and entertainment. He'd go up before we got the bill and just pay. No matter how much we argued with him and tried to pay him back, he wouldn't take it. Nice dude, mad baller, rich. When I was in college and in various groups that interacted with people with established careers, they, the people with careers, would do this for us. Not all the time, just every now and then go cover everyone's tab for whatever outing we were at. Honestly, it taught me a lot more about sharing what I had with people than it made me feel like I was a poor college student, but it had a lot to do with the attitude. Most of the time, when it happened, they'd tell everyone goodnight, not make a scene, and do it behind our backs and leave. We'd go to close out and the waiter or waitress would be like, "Oh no, Bob or Mary already took care of it." Being humble college students, and usually sometimes knowing these servers, led to us just tipping on the usual bill, and for a lot of these people it became an unspoken social agreement that they would cover us, and we would pay it forward by making sure our regular servers got taken care of. Adrian Broner, a boxer. Though he was not born rich, but became rich in his 20s, if you're not going by what Felix Dennis considers rich. He was supposed to be the next boxing superstar, but was beaten badly and exposed. He put out a video of him in line at Walmart. He paid with a $100 bill and threw the change on the ground, saying he is AB and only deals in hundreds. This is a man who had 7 children by 8 women at the age of 23 6 years ago, and who knows how many now. He had to settle a $1 million jewelry debt earlier this year. In middle school, we were asked to draw our homes for some assignment and hand it in at the end of class. A popular, extremely wealthy kid that sat behind me raised his hand and smugly asked the teacher for another sheet of paper because he couldn't draw it all on one page. His friends just snickered, but I was cringing. Even at 12, I remember thinking was such a snobby thing to say. I had a girl like that in French class high school. We had to draw and label our house floor plan in Francais. And Kat raised her hand and asks how many floors because she kind of lives in a mansion. For other purposes, Kat was pretty cool, but she bragged about her wealth a lot. I work at a country club, and on the 4th of July, while I was working, a little girl asked why we were closing at 7 instead of staying open all night. I told her I wanted to get to do sparklers and fireworks with my family, too. She thought about it, looked back at me and said, But y'all aren't real people?" I just had to laugh and inform her I was indeed real, and all my coworkers weren't just the slaves of the country club. wild man. Bragging is one of my pet peeves. There's a coworker that constantly brags of how her mom buys her purses, nails, and hair done. The coworker makes recent money. Why can't she buy her own and stop mooching and bragging? Or just enjoy it without bragging? I'm in my 30s and support myself, but my dad is insistent on buying me a car he can get a good deal on. I keep telling him no, but he's not going to stop until I give in. On the one hand, it's awesome. On the other hand, I hate the optics of Daddy buying me a car. What about that Dallas kid who killed those others in a drunken car wreck, then used the "I'm too rich for consequences" defense? One of his examples in his defense was he had never learned consequences. For example, that time his parents found him drunk driving with a naked 14-year-old in the back of the car. On an episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, there was a member named Taylor. Her husband committed suicide and their lifestyle changed significantly. She and her young daughter started flying commercial versus private, and her daughter asked why there were all these other people on their plane. One of the very few times I would be interested in watching one of those shows, to be honest. Probably too late to the party here, but I ended up at one of those fancy private universities. Coming from a small Ohio town, it resulted in a lot of culture shock. One of the most memorable moments was when I was eating breakfast at one of the campus restaurants, super early, before I opened the store I worked at, and there was a girl at a table with her friend, just completely broken down sobbing. She was basically incomprehensible. I immediately thought she must have lost a family member, and my heart broke for her. Until, through rolling tears, she managed to croak out, "It's just not fair! I asked for a Mercedes, and he got me a BMW!" Then just broke into guttural sobs. Meanwhile, I'm hoping my paycheck can cover an overdue oil change on my 1998 Plymouth Neon.